ओंटारियो ने फॉल इकनॉमिक स्टेटमेंट जी रिलीज़ की है। साडे नाल फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ओंटारियो दे पीटर Bethlenfeld Minister, what you want to tell us about building Ontario for you, the fall economic statement?
Well, thank you for having me. Look, our fall economic statement is a continuation of our plan to build the economy, to strengthen our healthcare system, to tackle gridlock, to build critical infrastructure for our growing communities. It's a plan that puts more money back into people's pockets, maybe cutting the gas tax or giving them a taxpayer rebate because our revenues are up. And it's a plan that balances the budget. First time that a government can say that in a long time here in Ontario. Our plan is working.
So the building Ontario for you, does it include also the public safety issues?
You know, public safety and tackling crime is a top priority for this government. I'm the son of two refugees, displaced persons from World War II. They came to this province in the 1950s with nothing but the shirt on their backs. And that was a time when families could raise their children feeling safe, getting a good job, getting a good education. And we can't let crime and the bad actors ruin that Canadian dream for the many people that continue to come to this great province. So we're going to continue to be tough on crime, to give our police the resources, the legislation necessary to go after the bad actors so families can feel safe.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ। ਅਮਰਜੋਤ ਸੰਧੂ, ਮੈਂਬਰ ਆਫ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਵੈਸਟ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਜ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਈਸਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਆਫ ਫਾਈਨੈਂਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਜੀ ਪੀਟਰ ਬੈਥਨਫਾਲ ਵੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਰਾਊਂਡ ਟੇਬਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਇੱਥੇ। ਜਿਹੜੀ ਫਾਲ ਇਕਨੋਮਿਕ ਸਟੇਟਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਆ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਮੰਗਲਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ, ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਆਨਸਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਿਆ ਜੀ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੱਕ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਕਟਿਵ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਨਵਰਸੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਅਤੇ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹਾਈਲਾਈਟ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਫਾਲ ਇਕਨੋਮਿਕ ਸਟੇਟਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ, ਅਤੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਅੰਟਾਰੀਓ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਚਾਹੇ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਾਂ $200 ਦੀ ਰਿਬੇਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਾਸਟ ਆਫ ਲਿਵਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੇਨ ਕੰਸਰਨ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕਾਸਟ ਆਫ ਲਿਵਿੰਗ ਬਹੁਤ ਉੱਪਰ ਜਾ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਆ, ਹਾਈ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਰੇਟਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। ਸੋ ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ $200 ਹਰ ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟੈਕਸ ਪੇਇੰਗ ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਰਿਬੇਟ ਦੇ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜੀ, ਉਹ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਸ਼ਲਾਘਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਾਂ ਹੋਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗੈਸ ਟੈਕਸ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਐਕਸਟੈਂਡ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਵਾ, ਨਾਲ ਆਪਾਂ $1600 ਦੀ ਰਿਬੇਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਨੋਟ ਰਿਬੇਟ ਮੈਂ ਕਹੂੰਗਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਵਨ ਫੇਅਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ। ਹੁਣ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਟਰੈਵਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ, ਚਾਹੇ ਮਿਸੀਸਾਗਾ, ਚਾਹੇ ਗੋ ਟਰਾਂਜ਼ਿਟ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ, ਚਾਹੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਡਾਊਨਟਾਊਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਫੇਅਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜੀ ਪੇ ਕਰਨਾ ਪਊਗਾ। ਅਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਇਨਵੈਸਟਮੈਂਟਸ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਨਫਰਾਸਟਰਕਚਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, $190 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਨਵੈਸਟਮੈਂਟ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਆ। ਨਵੇਂ ਹੌਸਪੀਟਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਣ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਮੈਡੀਕਲ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬਣ ਰਹੀ ਆ ਜੀ, ਲੌਂਗ ਟਰਮ ਕੇਅਰ ਹੋਮਸ ਬਣ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਟਰਾਂਜ਼ਿਟ ਫੈਸਿਲਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਨਵੀਂ ਬਣ ਰਹੀ ਆ, ਅਤੇ ਮੋਸਟ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟਲੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹਾਈਵੇ 413 ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਇੱਕ ਮਾਈਲਸਟੋਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਨਵੈਸਟਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਜੀ, ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਕ੍ਰਿਟੀਕਲ ਇਨਫਰਾਸਟਰਕਚਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ। ਸੋ ਬਹੁਤ ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੁਛ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜੀ ਇਨਵੈਸਟਮੈਂਟਸ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਇਹ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ ਦੀ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੰਨੀਆਂ ਇੰਨੀਆਂ ਇਨਵੈਸਟਮੈਂਟਸ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਵਾ। ਸੋ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਅੱਜ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਨਾਲ ਰਾਊਂਡ ਟੇਬਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਵਾਲਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਗਿਆ, ਅਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਕਟਿਵ ਕਨਵਰਸੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮੈਂ ਕਹੂੰਗੀ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜੀ। ਅਤੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਬੈਥਨਫਾਲ ਵੀ ਦਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਹੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਓਰਿਟੀ 'ਤੇ ਰੱਖਦੇ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਦਾ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਏਸ਼ੀਆ ਦਾ, ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਵਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਜੀ। ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।
As Minister McGregor already stated that enough is enough, and we have seen that all those revolving doors between federal government and provincial government. And Minister McGregor, you are the best fit for this job, and we see your videos on social media. You are doing your best what you can do. That's why this post was created, and you are the best fit for that. But recently, few weeks ago, I will quote some of the incidents which happened here in Peel region. Mehakdeep Singh, 25 years old, his family came from India. He lost his life. He was working on a gas station. He was shot at on his head. He was transported to Toronto Trauma Center. He was declared dead. Armed robbery. 24-year-old boy here in Brampton, the carjackers, they ran over him few days ago. He broke his 4 ribs. He is admitted in Sunnybrook Hospital. There was an incident, homeowner opened fire on the intruders, midnight intrusion. And there is a revolving door between provincial and federal government. We are seeing everything. We are not able to catch our federal member of parliaments because they are saying Ontario should hire tough judges. Ontario is saying that we have the tough judges, change the criminal code. And Ontarians and Canadians are watching, and we have become a mockery into the world when New York Times published that Toronto become, or Ontario become a candy shop for car thieves. And every 17 minutes, one car was stolen. Sorry, my question will be a bit longer because this is a serious concern. Every 17 minutes, one car was stolen. We don't know what is the data now. Federal government is committing that the car theft has gone down. But question is, the police is not reporting or sending a press release how many carjackings every day happening. Thanks to the social media, which is an open platform where we or the government might be seeing that this thing is happening. But there is no such kind of a press release into the police that these incidents are happening in the carjacking because they are armed carjacking and our young forces losing their lives. And my question starts like, because number one, why can't we, because we have a young force here in country who came here for their better future, why can't we have a legislation and a law? All the gas stations across Ontario should close their doors after 10 p.m. till morning because we don't want to lose our young kids. There is no safety in the remote area. The robbers come, they shoot, they rob, and they went away. And we met the family yesterday, the mother and the sister. He was only the bread earner. So we should bring a legislation that all gas stations should have a proper lock and closed system, because if residents ignore, then government should step in and save our lives. For the car thefts, compensation should be given to the residents. It's not their fault, as my colleague already mentioned that we are losing the insurance, and that was an election promise only. The compensation should be given the residents, not the insurance premiums should be again a burden on the residents. Government should take that responsibility. Government should take the responsibility and accountability for the safety of people. And also, I'll finish my question. Police, they should report all these incidents so that we should know how many cars are going and how many incidents are happening. And the self-protection rights. If governments can protect us and federal and provincial government can resolve their issues in the Parliament, Queen's Bar, but residents want a safety and give the rights to homeowners to protect themselves.
On many of the things that you say, I completely agree with you, and the level of crime in this province is unacceptable. This is a government that's taking action, has taken action. We have a premier who is supporting of going after the bad actors on many, many levels. And again, that's why we have a minister completely dedicated to this, a solicitor general. We're providing more funding, more resources, more boots on the ground. We're looking at processes and legislative reform to be able to combat this, because I think we would all agree the number one priority is to keep families safe. That's what's great about this country. We're never going to relent in that objective, and I will let the minister expand.
Yeah, thank you. And exactly what you said, Nitin, about the violent robberies. One of the things that we put in our letter was if you're charged with a violent robbery, either a home invasion or carjacking, you shouldn't get bail. You shouldn't be allowed to be out the next day, which is what the criminal code currently says, which is not only that you're supposed to get bail, but you're supposed to get bail within 24 hours. We've also put forward, we know that it's, I know, we all know that it's a small group of individuals that are committing the vast majority of crimes, right? That need to be locked up. And when you slap somebody on the wrist, say, don't do it again, let them out into the community again, that doesn't stop anybody from committing more crime. What does stop somebody from committing more crime is locking them up, putting them in jail, keeping them behind bars. It is a sad state of affairs that we have right now, where our police are doing everything they can, the prosecutors are doing everything they can. I've heard from Crown prosecutors on the wiretaps for some of these gangs, where they're laughing about the consequences. They're saying the only reason that they're going to be acting so abrasively and committing these violent crimes is because they know in Canada they've got to work pretty damn hard to go to jail. Well, You know, that's not right. And that started in 2019 when the criminal code was broken and made totally weak by these progressive so-and-sos that put forward legislation that they thought was the right thing to do and clearly hasn't worked for our community. So what we've been asking for the federal government to do, take ownership of the file. And I'll say, with the pushback that they're giving, the only bright light that we're seeing, at least they're acknowledging now that bail is a problem. When they put their law forward in 2019, this was exciting for them. They thought that the way that tackle crime is let everybody out on bail, be nice to criminals, this will reduce the crime. Clearly that hasn't worked. What we need them to get to now is understanding that this is their responsibility. This is a criminal code that they broke. They need to take accountability for it. Frankly, if they don't take accountability for it, I think in the next federal elections, I think Peel residents and GTA residents are going to make them take accountability for it. So this is their mess. They need to clean it up. They need to do it today. Thanks.
Yeah, and we're just have a few words by Hardeep.
Thank you. And exactly to what Minister McGregor said and Minister Bethlen said as well, the questions are coming to Ontario as if this, from the federal government and the federal representatives in our area, as if this problem only resides in Ontario. If you take a look across the country, in Vancouver and British Columbia, you see 60 criminals that are charged over 1,500 times. This isn't a problem that's just happening in the province of Ontario, it's a problem that's happening across Canada. And the only fix, like Minister McGregor said, is a change in the criminal code, because the judges cannot make decisions that are outside of the criminal code. So that would be our message to our federal representatives, as well as our representatives here in Brampton East that make these claims on social media that the Ontario government needs to do more. Increasing the penalties isn't going to change anything. If you change the penalty from 10 years to 12 years to 15 years to 20 years, that's not going to change what's going to happen. We need to change the rate of conviction, and we need to ensure that they do not get bail reform. And the only way to do that is bring in those changes in the criminal code, so then we can apply those changes. If you make that one change for us, we promise we'll keep them behind bars. Thank you.
Another issue, we went inside the creeks, and inside the creeks we have seen that again our future force, our young force, those who came to contribute in the Canadian economy, they are into the creeks also. Peel region is giving them tents and foods and jackets and blankets, and our police force went inside the creeks to, when they fight, they just many of them are without documents, girls are into the sex trade, boys are into the drugs, intoxicated, and many other issues, the hygiene issue, the fire hazard issues, many issues. And every social media, if you see these kind of videos, you will see went viral. City of Brampton wrote to the federal minister few days ago. Province is also saying end exploitation of the international students. The employers are doing a wage thefts. The truck drivers are on the roads asking for their wages, and it's happening only in Brampton with our community that people, they are doing a wage theft. So these are the concerns. Thanks for this press conference, because issues are so much concerning that we really, it's not against anything. It's the issues which Canadians are or Ontarians are suffering. So what you want to do for those kids, those who are into the creeks? How can the government address those issues effectively so that we can help them they need the help?
This is a fall economic statement that updates on what we said in 2022 in my budget that we ran on and received a bigger majority. And as I said, it is a government that's focused on rebuilding the economy. We're fortifying our healthcare system. We're tackling gridlock, which is really critical to many people, including here in Brampton. You know, the infrastructure right across the board for our growing communities, be it healthcare, long-term care, schools, highways, subways, broadband. We're building it on an unprecedented level. Another key area is tough on crime. Another area is to put money back into people's pockets. And then finally, do it in a fiscally responsible way. We're, for the first time in almost 2 decades, we've got a credit rating upgrade to AA. No government in the last 2 decades has been able to do that. We're putting more money back in the pockets, in part because we're borrowing less. Our deficits are smaller, we're borrowing less, and our revenues are growing. So yes, there's a lot to do, but this is a government that is getting it done, has a clear vision on how to build the province, how to raise up all workers, and get bigger paychecks, and at the same time be tough on crime. So that includes the many people who have come to this country for education, for an opportunity, just like my parents, who came to Canada with nothing but the shirt on their backs in the early 1950s. And Canada gave them the opportunity, and Ontario gave them the opportunity to raise a family, to get a good job, to get an education, to feel safe. And those are the principles that this government is very focused on. That's what we're here to do as elected representatives, and we're not going to slow down. We're going to keep going. So thank you.
Around the country, around the world, and Minister Bethlenfalvy and his team have been hard at work making sure that in Ontario we're able to weather that storm, whether that's making sure we've got more manufacturing jobs coming to our province, investing heavily in public safety, which is obviously a portfolio that I've been dearly interested in. We've put it in perspective before Minister Bethlenfalvy and Premier Ford and the PC caucus took office. We used to graduate about 1,400 police officers per year through the Ontario Police College, and these police college graduates have to go through that college before they can go to any municipal service, First Nations, or provincial police, COPP. Now that number is almost 2,100, right? And if you look at that investment, that's a 50% increase, and that's massive investments that we made in public safety, massive investments that you've seen similarly in highways, transit, healthcare.
It was my honor and pleasure to table the fall economic statement the other day. It's an economic statement that updates our plan to rebuild the economy, a plan to continue to strengthen our healthcare system, a plan that tackles gridlock, a plan that invests, as my colleagues have said, in critical infrastructure for our growing communities. It's a plan that balances the budget and addresses the high cost of living for the people of Ontario. I'm very proud that we're able to have a fiscal balance. If Ontario was a country, we'd be within the top 20 countries in the world. And you tell me which country has a path to balance. Virtually nobody. We're the number one trading partner for 17 states in the US, another 11, we're the number two trading partner. 28 states of the United States, we're their number one or two trading partner. 500 billion of two-way trade, a lot of that which emanates from right here in Brampton. And that trade is very significant to our economic prosperity. We're very focused on good jobs and bigger paychecks. We're very focused on helping people when things are tough. Now, while interest rates and inflation have come down, as Amarjot said, prices are still very high. The cost of groceries are up over 20% over the last 3 years. The price of gas, the price of housing costs. So that's why we cut the gas tax. And from day one, we've been putting more money back into the hardworking people of Ontario, all at the same time, balancing the books. Our credit profile, we got a credit rating upgrade to AA from DBRS. There's two more credit rating agencies that are looking at our numbers for a possible upgrade. So we're able to be fiscally responsible, fiscally conservative with your money, taxpayers' money, at the same time build Ontario. The federal government has not been tough on crime. That's been very clear. You know, our government has been tough on crime since day one. On the question, are there enough spaces? Yes, there are enough spaces, and in addition to that, we're building more correctional facilities. We're investing in infrastructure right across the province. In fact, $191 billion of capital for building infrastructure, which includes correctional facilities. We've been very tough on crime. You know, we just purchased 5 new helicopters to help our officers go after the bad actors, which includes Peel Region. They're very grateful for getting the tools. We put more money into auto theft, significant amounts to combat auto theft. We put significant amount of money into combating guns and gangs. We'll continue to advocate to the federal government for bail reform. And I think the minister can talk about that in a second. What I would also say is we're pushing the federal government, and they are responding, to do more work at the borders. You know, they are responsible for our borders. So it's a team effort. There's a lot more to do. In terms of judges and justices, in fact, we just hired 25 new judges.
Look, we've made tremendous investments in the Ontario government. As I said earlier, we used to hire about 1,400 police officers a year. Now that number is almost 2,100. We've got helicopters rolling out. We've got a bail compliance dashboard rolling out. We've got automatic license plate readers. We're hiring more judges, building more jails. We're doing everything we can from a provincial level to tackle this problem. We've seen auto theft go down in Ontario between 14 and 16%, depending on whose numbers you're looking at. But we've seen violent carjackings on the rise in many of our GTA jurisdictions. Frankly, in York Region and Peel Region, double what we had last year. In Toronto, that's about 60%. Part of the reason that we're seeing more violent crimes happening, as the minister identified, we have more guns on our street than we used to. You know, Peel Police implemented Project Sledgehammer, the largest gun bust that they've ever done recently. And they identified 90% of the crime guns that were found there came over the border. And that's just the ones that they identified. The ones that they weren't sure, the other 10%, were because the serial number was wiped off, and they suspect that those guns also came over the border. We need stricter border controls, and we need a justice system that's responsive to families, keeping them safe, not the rights of criminals. We've heard from the federal government where they say we need to train our judges and JPs better. There's no, first off, they go through tremendous training. But there's no training that you can put that changes what the criminal code says. When they're trained to follow the criminal code, and the criminal code says let people out on bail with the maximum restraint, with the maximum leniency, then the judges and the JPs have to follow that. When the criminal code says take some of these factors into consideration, they have to follow that criminal code. And we hear the liberal academics and the PhDs and the frankly, the progressives make excuses for criminals. Oh, you know, little Johnny, you know, it's only his life circumstances that made him pull a gun on somebody. Well, I'm sorry. Little Johnny pulled a gun on somebody, he should go away. And what we've put forward in our letter is that we should bring back mandatory minimums. An illegal firearm in Canada, you should face a minimum of 3 years. And we put that letter out with some no bail provisions. We put the 3-strike rule forward, and it's like every liberal, every lawyer, defense lawyer, every progressive lost their minds. And the reason why they lost their minds is because we're finally saying enough is enough. We're taking a tough on crime approach, and they just can't handle it. Well, you know what? You know who can't handle it? Ontario residents who are fed up with violent repeat offenders terrorizing their neighborhoods every day. We're not afraid of doing things that are hard. We're not afraid to stand up for victims. We're not afraid to say that we need bail reform, criminal code reform today.
You know, right across the province, just not in Brampton, the cost of insurance has gone up, including Pickering, my riding, and in Durham region. Excuse me. So we've been tackling auto insurance since day one. We've introduced reforms to provide more choice, competition, and convenience for individuals when they choose auto insurance. That includes more optionality, which we propose, so that we keep the necessary parts of auto insurance, but leave other parts as optional, which will have the impact of maybe slowing down the increase, or even in some cases dropping the cost of insurance. I would say that right now auto theft is causing insurance premiums to go up, and that's why we have a minister in charge of auto theft. This has been a priority for this government. We're also looking at territorial ratings, for example. We have 11 pilots going on right now to test territorial ratings and provide reform on territorial ratings. So we continue to work with industry. We continue to work with consumer advocacy groups, because I think we would all agree, you know, the cost of living is very high. That's why we're putting more money back into people's pockets. And part of that cost of living would include auto insurance. It's the price of the gas at the pumps. That's why we're cutting the gas tax. It's the price of tolls. If you're driving in Durham, you know, the Liberals put on those tolls. You know, we took those tolls off the 412, 418. For those who aren't driving, taking transit, the integrated one fare. That's one of the most popular things we've done. Where we're combating congestion in the province. You probably have heard that we're combating bike lanes, where we're on arterial roads that are economic arteries of our communities, where we're combating that too. So on many fronts, we're combating the cost of living, helping people out, particularly at a time when they need help. Some people say, well, why don't you cut taxes? Well, maybe down the road, personal income tax, would you file your income tax? You know, you'll get a rebate next year, or maybe in 2026. People need relief right now. The cost of gas, the cost of groceries, the cost of auto insurance, the cost of housing, rent, mortgages, you go down the list. Many people are struggling to pay the bills. And this is a government that cares for the vast majority of Ontarians who are struggling, to help them out where we can. And we're in the position, fortunately, through good economic and financial management, to put some money back in their pockets. So family of five, it'd be $1,000 that they'll receive early in the new year.
Toronto Police, the Chief of Toronto Police is going to be doing a press conference talking about the results of Project Thoroughbred, which was a huge investigation funded by the Ontario government, which is cracking into one of these auto theft rings that were committing fraud through our own system, through Service Ontario as well. They're going to be laying 59 arrests, or they've laid 59 arrests, 302 charges, 363 stolen vehicles seized at an estimated value of around $14 million. If we don't invest in being tough on crime, if we don't invest in programs like the Criminal Intelligence Service, if we don't invest in frontline police and give them the tools that they need to do their jobs, we won't see results like this. We won't see these kind of investigations, these big busts being made. What I will say, for the love of God, the 59 arrests that are being made, if we see 59 people out on bail tomorrow, I want everybody to write your Liberal MP and say we need bail reform, criminal code reform now. It is ridiculous. The police are doing their jobs. The province has stepped up. We've got space. We've got jail space for them. We've got judges online. We got crown prosecutors. We got all the tools we need. We need stricter laws. So I'm not presupposing anything, but if we find out that those 59 individuals are out on bail, we need to send a serious message to our Liberal MPs that they need to step up.
We came to this country, for the future of our kids, and everyone deserves to be safe in their own homes and their communities. So as Minister McGregor said, this government is doing everything in our power to make sure that people feel safe in their homes, but also at the same time we're calling on the federal government to amend the criminal code so we can put these criminals behind bars. The cost of living, that question has been come up again and again. Minister Bethan Falvey has highlighted very well the investments this government is making, whether it's through that rebate of $200 to each taxpayer individual, whether it's making investments in one fare program that will save $1,600 per family per person per year, whether it's extending the gas tax cut. So we are doing everything in our power to put more money back into the pockets of hardworking Ontarians. Also the question regarding the small businesses. This is the government that stood up for small businesses during the pandemic. Whether it is giving small businesses grants up to $10,000. For 2 phases we had to support the small businesses. So we hear you, this government is making all the investments, unprecedented investments, $190 billion in infrastructure, whether it's building new hospitals. And recently MPP Garewal was just showing me that William Osler has released a request for proposal for 4 pre-qualified, people who will be building that Peel Memorial Hospital, whether it's Highway 413, that will reduce the traffic congestion and will significantly contribute to our provincial GDP and will create thousands of jobs in the community, will attract new businesses in the community.